Today's webinar is presented by George Whittam, studio tech to the stars, educator, and father, located in Venice, California. George is a 1997 graduate of Virginia Tech with a bachelor's degree in music and audio technology and a minor in communications. Since 2005, George has dedicated his life to serving the technical need of voice actors, audiobook narrators, and podcasters. He is globally considered a top authority in voiceover recording technology. In August 2017, George launched George the Tech to assist anyone who records voiceover with tech support, training, studio design, and audio processing presets. Among his many successful clients are the late Don LaFontaine, Joe Cipriano, Tara Strong, Lori Allen, Randy Thomas, David Kay, and Scott Rummel. George is co-host with Dan Leonard of the webcast Voiceover Body Shop and co-host of the podcast The Pro Audio Suite. These webinars are designed to raise anyone's technical abilities to become comfortable and efficient while self-recording. The event is being recorded for replay at any time, so never worry about missing the smallest detail. And now, George the Tech Whittam.
Hey, Martha, thank you. That was my clients and friends, Martha Kahn, doing a cute little intro for me. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Practical Personal Studios. I try not to bore you. I'm going to move along pretty quickly, so it's going to be a lot to digest in a short amount of time. But I want to give you the most value for your time. And that's why I like to keep things moving along pretty quickly. So I'm going to get into the presentation, and I'm going to try to keep it to about an hour. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. All right, so let's get right to it. Those with basic home studio experience, you're bound to learn a couple of things, I'm sure. And those with professionally set up home recording studios, hopefully you walk away or click away with at least some golden nugget from today's presentation. So when it comes to home studios, I always say your home studio can't sound like one. So you cannot have a home studio that tips off immediately to the listener, whoever's casting the project or whatever, that you are not recording in a potentially professional studio. Now, I know that these days, home studios are almost entirely the norm. I mean, there's so little being done in commercial studios, unless you're working on really big budget jobs, or unless you're in a really small market and there's like one studio in town and that's where they record. This is really what's going to be expected of you, is having a home studio. And whether it's in your home or not, or in an office, it can't sound like it's in a home, like with background noise, bad acoustics, family's noises, bad mic technique, et cetera, et cetera. But the good news is it's not that expensive. And of course, with some knowledge, it's not super difficult to get great sounding audio. So I'm going to cover the main points that you really need to be aware of. And I would say in order of the most important to the least important in terms of sound quality. So starting with acoustics, that's how the inside of the booth or closet or whatever you're in is treated for sound quality, the way it sounds, the way your voice sounds, how you might set up your booth, what could go inside it, how you place your microphone, super important. If acoustics is the lighting of a photograph, the mic placement is the setting up of the camera lens, right? Proper focus, the right focal length, etc. What kind of computer you use? What does that have to do with it, and what do I recommend? Audio interfaces, which is how audio gets from your studio mic and into the computer. Audio, other accessories that could be helpful. Software choices like the DAW that you might use, the digital audio workstation software. Processing, basic ideas about processing audio for an audition, and then we'll get to your questions. So the importance of proper acoustics, I cannot overstate. It is absolutely critical. Imagine trying to get a great looking, amazing professional photograph in a room with the absence of any light, or really, really bad lighting. Okay. That is the equivalent to trying to get a great recording of a voice in a room with really bad acoustics. It's the same kind of idea. Now we are getting better and better at getting photographs with really bad light. I know if you have a new iPhone, you can get photos in near dark that look pretty good. I mean, that there is technology getting there. But in the world of acoustics and recording audio, we have not figured out ways to computationally fix bad acoustics. They're trying, trust me, but you can't fix it in the mix, in the post. You have to get it right to begin with, and that's super important. It's going to have a bigger effect on your sound than what microphone you use. Believe me, it will. You can get an amazing sounding recording in a good studio with just a mic on an iPhone. Believe me, you can. You can add reverb and effects, but you can't remove it. So if that room is reverberant and echoey, that is not going to work out well for you. And the thing to remember is that small spaces, like a little closet, an ISO booth, anything that's, pretty confined where you can reach out with your hands and touch 2, 3, or even 4 of the walls around you. And if you're really unlucky, the ceiling. The acoustical treatment for those little tiny spaces is definitely different than larger spaces. So I like to talk about practical treatment. This is all about practical personal studios after all. So practical acoustic treatment for your studio is what I'm all about, at least to begin with. You want to choose a space in your home that's already mostly dead. So the worst would be a shower or a shower stall or a bathroom, right? I understand that might be the quietest room for you. And if it is, then there's going to be a lot of work ahead to try to get it to sound more like a studio. But you want a acoustically dead space that doesn't reverb, bounce audio around the room. A closet full of clothing and bedding. If you're lucky enough to have a closet that's large enough for you to actually stand in or sit on a stool or something and have a microphone and possibly the computer, basically the very basics you need to record. If you're lucky enough to have that in your home, you are ahead of the game because those work awesome. They absorb so much sound. They get rid of the reverb. They get rid of the resonance and the boxy sound. Heavy clothes just hanging on hooks make a huge difference. If that's not something you have available to you, or if the only closet in the home is a shared closet, you just can't take it over part of the closet, then you might take a portion of a larger room, a bedroom, an office, whatever, and basically acoustically make it smaller. So what I'm saying is you can sort of corner off a part of that room, like take a corner of that room, usually a corner or at least one end of the room, and deal with that area as your voiceover recording booth area, right? So you might cordon off half of the space. Like I've kind of done that here. I have a big heavy sheet running down the middle of my room. And on one side, I have my booth studio area. And on the other side, I have a lot of storage. I have another workstation and everything else. So it kind of divides the room in half. And while that's not acoustically doing a whole lot in this case, it does allow you to treat a portion of the room if you use something very heavy. And that works really, really well. Then you don't have to put stuff around an entire 12 by 14 room in your house. You don't need to do that. The more stuff that's in there, the clutter is your friend though. Like the more furniture and shelves and bookshelves are amazing, by the way, full of books and objects. The more things are in the room to scatter the sound, we call it diffusion, the better the sound is going to be. So an empty room with nothing in it is the worst. The more stuff that's in there, practical, whatever it is, furniture, stuff, books, the better it's going to sound. Another thing, a trick is to point the microphone in the direction where the least noise is coming from. So if my microphone was pointing at where the noise from the streets come, like say there was a window over here, that would be not a good direction to point my mic, because guess where it's listening? It's listening to the sound coming from the window more than it is listening to the sound coming from this direction.